He's thirsty. And a jar of sour wine just happened to be sitting there. Anybody, did you leave this sour wine here? Is this yours? No? Can I have this? Okay, great. So they silk a sponge. Anybody got a sponge? Where'd they get the sponge? Hey, you go into the crucifix. And then, of course, they asked Jesus, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" And he says, "I am." And then in another gospel, he says, "If you say so." And it says that he did not open his mouth to answer any of the charges. Because Jesus remained silent, they say this is a prophecy fulfilled from Isaiah chapter 53, where it says, "And he did not open his mouth." So, a prophecy in Christianity and their planet is when Jesus doesn't say something and when he doesn't get his bones broken. Things that anybody could do and not have those things happen to. You could be the Messiah. Have you ever had your bone broken? No? Well, have you ever remained silent? You could be the Messiah. Forget about bringing world peace and any other tangible thing that would be recognizable if it were to happen. You could just make up prophecies as you go along. But the problem in John's gospel is that Jesus opens his yap and he doesn't shut up. If they would have had Jesus remain silent, John could have had that same prophecy under his belt too. Ooh, which gospel's got the most prophecies fulfilled? Then Pilate washes his hands. The soldiers mock Jesus. They dress him in a scarlet robe. Another gospel, Mark says it's a purple robe. They spit on him. They mock him. They lead him away to crucify him. Here's another good contradiction I will mention. It says, Matthew chapter 27, verse 34, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall, but he tasted it and he refused to drink it. And Mark says the same thing. Now in John's gospel, he does drink the rancid swill. Check this out. Chapter 19 in John's gospel, verse 28, it says, knowing that everything had been accomplished, and to fulfill the scriptures, Jesus said, I am thirsty. He's thirsty. And a jar of sour wine just happened to be sitting there. Anybody, did you leave this sour wine here? Is this yours? No? Can I have this? Okay, great. So they silk a sponge. Anybody got a sponge? Where'd they get the sponge? Hey, you go into the crucifixion, make sure you carry a sponge around with you, just in case somebody gets thirsty up there. Well, how are we going to get up to him? We'll figure that out when it happens. We'll get a stick. Anyways, getting off track here. They offer him this swill, and he takes the sponge, and he drinks it. Okay, prophecy fulfilled. Here's one of my other favorite lines here in this verse, or in this chapter 27. Verse 44, it says, in the same way, even the robbers who were crucified with Jesus berated him. Imagine that, you're getting tortured to death. You're on the cross, you're in agony, but you still have time to poke fun at the guy in the middle, right? Then we have Jesus' last words. Each gospel's got their own thing about what Jesus said last. And again, in this one it says, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. I'm told this is a mishmash of Hebrew and Aramaic, and the word does not exist, sabachthani, something like that. Anyways, maybe I'll do more research on that and do a video just about that. Then the burial of Jesus. This is where it gets interesting. A rich man from Arimathea named Joseph comes along, and he's got a friend named Nicodemus. And they bring, according to John's Gospel, 75 pounds of spices and myrrh to lube Jesus up with. Okay? And who watches all this happen from a distance? Mary Magdalene and her friend, or friends. Watch Jesus get buried. So they know that he's already been buried and that he's already been spiced up. So, right here, the very last chapter in Matthew's Gospel is going to tell us what I think, personally, is even more unbelievable than saints being raised from the dead. It involves a story of Jewish women who are returning to the tomb of a dead man to disinter him after he's been buried for 3 days, and they're going to rub spices all over his dead carcass. In what universe, in what religion, or what culture do you go and dig up a dead body that's already been buried and spiced up and lubed up, whatever you want to call it, and put spices on them. Nowhere, never. This is a nonsense story that did not happen. And what a great way to end the most unbelievably stupid story ever told. Matthew's Gospel. I hope you've learned something, and if you're thinking about joining a church, I'm hoping that you've learned enough to say, you know what? I can have a relationship without God without all this nonsense. In fact, I can't have a relationship with God at all if I'm wasting my time paying attention to some pretend dead man on a stick that's designed to test me to see if I'm paying attention to God. Anyway, have a nice day.